I am very aware that this video is extremely late, but better late than never, right? So let's talk about all of the books that I read in the month of August. So I'll say that it was an okay reading month. I had 8 books that I read, and I believe 2 were 5 stars. So I mean, very good, but just kind of slow. I had a lot of other things going on in August, which are all very fun, but I am very excited for September because I already know I'm gonna have a ton more time to read. So let's talk about the books in the order that I read them. So my first book that I finished was The Frontish Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca, and I have struggled with his name for so long, but I think I finally got it after talking about it for a straight month. This story follows Katrina and Nathan, who were co-authors for a while, but after their second book went big time, they kind of fell off. They said some things that they probably didn't mean very much, and now they haven't written or spoken in many years. Nathan is trying to start his own career as a solo author, and in order to do that and be picked up by the publisher, they need to produce this one last book together. Katrina agrees to go and do this with him, and they go back to this little house in Florida where they wrote their second book to do this big writing retreat. And so they are forced proximity and trying to get this book done. It's very fun because you get to see them on this writing adventure together essentially, and they correct each other's words, and they always really respect one another's writing style. I think that that was a huge part of this book. Is he was so excited to see what she had written and was like, she is a genius and I love watching what she does. And it's dual POV, so we get to see both of their perspectives. And then also it's dual timelines, so we get to see them in the present and how they are working through what they went through in the past. But then we also get to see the past where everything was kind of building up to this explosion. So I gave this book 4 stars. I really ended up enjoying it. I have heard some people compare it to Book Lovers because I think they came out around the same time. But I would say it's pretty different because these are more authors and Book Lovers was more editors, and also nothing really compares to Book Lovers for me, so I won't even try to compare them. Well, I really liked it and had a good time with it. The romance was definitely really entertaining, but the writing process also, I really love books about books, so that definitely fulfilled it for me. I also listened to this as an audiobook and felt like it was a really good one personally, so would recommend reading it that way or just physically, whichever. Next, I picked up Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I gave this 4.5 stars. I love this book. This follows Chandler, who is a ghostwriter, and she has a really bad day. The person that she was ghostwriting for didn't end up noticing her or even recognizing her, so she's in a really bad spot, and she goes to the bar at this bookstore. We should get more of those. And finds this really handsome stranger and goes home with him and has a really bad time. Like, I was laughing out loud. It was so cringy, and you just felt so bad for her in this time. And so she sneaks out and gets out of there, and then the next day her agent calls her and is like, hey, like, we have your next ghostwriting gig ready, go meet them here. And when you know, it's one night stand guy. What we find out later is that he thinks that it was a fantastic time. He was like, we had a really good night together, and she almost just spits her drink out. She finally agrees to be his ghostwriter, and while they are working on his book, they are also working on his bedroom experience. So very Kiss Quotient-esque in that capacity, like just kind of teaching them how to be better and pleasing to one's partner, and it was so good. The spice, first, I've said this a ton, but I read Weather Girl, and that spice was really good. I didn't expect it, I didn't see it coming, but there's even more of it in here, and it is so well done. I loved it. Also, it was super interesting because Finn was essentially one of the stars on Teen Wolf, and he goes to all these Comic-Cons to still interact with his fans and still live like that while he's also kind of writing his memoir. So the Comic-Con setting was very interesting because I've just never seen that done. So it was fun watching them do that, and then also, I guess, still like experiencing each other and then slowly falling for one another as well. I loved it. It was so cute, and I would definitely recommend picking it up. Next, I read an advanced reader's copy of The Christmas Wager by Holly Cassidy, and this was about a woman who went to LA to be this big time star, like in real estate. Like, she just wanted to live in the city, but then one of her assignments takes her out to this small town in Colorado to try and buy up this property that's called Always Noel, and it was a Christmas shop. So she goes out there and tries to impress her boss by coming in at a very low number, and the grandson of the owner of Always Noel is livid, very mad that she is trying to rob his grandfather out of the money that he deserves. So they make this bet where the small town has these Christmas games that they all participate in, and if she can beat him in the Christmas games, then he will give her the building for that lower cost. But if he wins it, then she has to pay top dollar for it. So you get to watch these two kind of be enemies, but really more like rivals in these Christmas games, and they start to find out that they aren't really actually that bad. And the Christmas games were super fun, honestly. I haven't seen anything like that. This was definitely a Hallmark movie in a book. So if you really enjoy that, I would definitely recommend picking this one up. Next, I picked up The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent and gave this 4 stars. This story follows Araya, who is a human in a vampire world. Her father, like her adopted father, is the vampire king currently, and he is training her to go into this trial called the Kajari, I think. And when she goes into this trial, she'll compete against other vampires to win this one wish from the goddess Nyaxia. She obviously wants to wish for being turned immortal, and she wants to just not be this fragile human anymore. She wants to be able to be more and just experience more out of life instead of just fearing for her life all the time. But in order to do that, she obviously has to get through these trials with the most dangerous vampires involved. So this story is very fast-paced. You get the world kind of set up within 50 pages, and then you're just dropped into the trials. I was shocked by how quickly we got there, and then there are multiple trials, so you don't get much time in between each of them. You're kind of building up to the next, and then you keep going. So it's more of that competition setting that I really enjoyed because it kept it kind of fresh and alive. She also very quickly figures out that she can't necessarily do this on her own because she still is a human and needs certain things that the other vampires don't, and is more easily injured. She ends up befriending, I believe his name is Rain, and he, for whatever reason, is just really willing to help her out. And so they start off kind of not really liking each other, but then growing on one another. So we get to see her get involved with them. And that's when I started really liking this story, because I'm all for a strong female main character who doesn't need anybody. But it was just so obvious that she needed somebody, and that's okay to need somebody, but I think it's more of a strength when you finally acknowledge that you need help. Once she did that and she started to bond with the others, I definitely started to like the story more. It was very slow to start for me, so once we got there, I was like, okay, I'm in it now. And when we got to the end was so good. It was so good, and I did not see it coming, and I probably should have if I paid attention literally at all, but I loved it, and I would definitely recommend it. It left on such a cliffhanger, and I'm so excited to get into the next one. This is also on Kindle Unlimited if you want to read it that way. Next, I read the audiobook for Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan, and it's narrated by Julia Whelan, and it was phenomenal. It was a 5-star read for me. I was so excited about it. And I keep recommending it, so I want everybody to read this book. I was really nervous that she was just going to be like my favorite audiobook narrator, but her stories would fall more flat, but that was not the case. Not at all. This story follows Swanee, who is an audiobook narrator. She used to be an actress, but after an accident that left her without an eye, she has resorted to audiobooks. She doesn't necessarily do romance anymore because she doesn't believe in happily ever after, but she goes to this conference for audiobooks and then meets a really handsome stranger. They have a fantastic night together, and then they part ways. When one of her favorite romance authors passes away, her last wish was that Swanee and another individual named Brock McKnight record her romance book series that she's left just for them. You see Swanee kind of go back and forth on whether she wants to do this or not, but eventually gives in, and she gets to start working with this elusive Brock McKnight who doesn't tell anybody really who he is and everything. So she kind of starts warring with, she kind of likes this guy, but then also really like this guy that she met at this book conference but has never heard from him again. It was amazing. I loved it. So one, we got a lot of the self-development from Swanee because she has just put herself in a place where she is just waiting for her life to start again because she feels like it was taken from her when she got into this accident. So she hasn't really been living to the fullest, and it's kind of prevented her friendships and her family from really progressing either because they're all just waiting for her cue to just accept this new reality for her. And another big part of this is her grandmother who has dementia and is in this care facility, and how she kind of progresses with that and how it's just very hard. There's a lot of grief in here, and I feel like a lot of real life experiences that are communicated in just such a raw and emotional and vulnerable way. And I loved it. And if you can, I would definitely recommend picking up the audiobook for this because it's such a good experience. She's such a good narrator, and you know that since she wrote it, she knows how she wanted this to come across. Her accents are insane. Like, the guy that she meets at the book conference is Scottish, and I don't normally find that very attractive, but I found her attractive. I don't know what that says, but I would just recommend everybody pick this up. It is so good and worth the read, and it's so much more than the romance. It's just fantastic. That's all there is to it. And then on a very different track, I read The Nanny by Lana Ferguson, and I gave this 4 stars. This story follows Cassie, who is a grad student, and to get through grad school, she has been having an OnlyFans account, and so she's had this, but then she got way too close to one of her viewers and kind of wanted to meet up with him, and when he ditched her, she just shut her whole account down. So now she's jobless and looking for something else to hopefully pay her way through her grad school, and then this live-in nanny position comes up, and our charming chef single dad walks in, Aiden. So Cassie gets the job and moves in, and there's a lot of tension between the two, but then she realizes that Aiden is her biggest OnlyFans and was supposed to meet her up and then ditched her. So we get to watch her kind of reconcile if she should tell him, if she shouldn't, because he's already kind of rejected her once without really knowing it was her. So yeah, very interesting. I love a nanny trope, a single dad trope. It's so good. This story, it's about 400 pages, and it has to be at least 25% just smut. That is perfectly okay if that's what you're looking for. You're gonna find it in here. It was really well done, but it definitely could have been shorter because of that. And the kid was super cute. There was one thing that really bothers me, and I don't think that this is like a spoiler or anything. I don't think it's a trope either. When a character makes decisions that they think is best for the overall group without really consulting with them, and then even when they're consulting with them and they say, no, I don't want that, but they're like, I know best. I can't stand that. I can't stand it. We're all adults here. We can make decisions that are good and are bad for us, but I don't like it when somebody feels like they can just make decisions for others. So that irked me. But other than that, really good, really fun. If you're looking for something spicy, you're gonna find it here. And then I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I gave this 4 stars, 3.5 stars. This story follows Kit, who is a caregiver and recently had a really tragic accident occur in her career, so she has to take the only job available, and that is going to take care of Lenora Hope at Hope's End. Lenora is thought to have killed her mother, father, and sister many years ago, but never had enough evidence to kind of put her away, so she's just been at Hope's End ever since. So Kit ends up at Hope's End and then finds out that the reason that they needed a caregiver is because the other one just vanished in the night. Hope's End is also quite literally falling off of a cliff. This is a very old mansion and it's just slowly sliding off this cliff. It gives more to the spooky kind of aspects of it. When Lenora starts to try and share her story with Kit, she has a typewriter, so she's trying to type out her story and share it with her. I get to see what her perspective of the night of the murders. So I saw so much hype around this book, and this is my first Riley Sager book, so maybe I just didn't know what to expect going in. One, it was really fast paced, like it was written in a way where you just wanted to consume it and binge it, but because I couldn't do that, I felt like I was just on edge for like a week trying to figure this out, and it's almost 400 pages, and I think that we probably could have gotten to the point sooner. There were a lot of plot twists, but I felt like the main one I just didn't agree with. I don't like when plot twists just come out of nowhere. I like to see kind of the trail and the breadcrumbs leading up to it and want to look back and be like, oh, I should have seen that. But no, this one came way out of left field, and I didn't really appreciate that personally, but I liked the smaller plot twists because you could kind of see them coming, and I love them. So that definitely helped. And it went, like, all of the plot twists went up until the last page. So it was really, I mean, it was good in that capacity. Again, the haunted house vibes were very spooky. I love that. The one issue that I had, I've said a few issues, so I won't even say that. There was 2 instances that I wouldn't have noticed had it not happened twice. But Kit is a caregiver, and Lenora is this, I believe she's almost completely paralyzed except for her left hand. So she's I would expect a very small woman. So there are 2 points where she needs to be transported, and there is one point that's like a life or death situation. The like exact words, similar words, I know my boundaries. Like as a woman, I know my boundaries or something like that. And that just rubbed me the wrong way so much. I'm like, Mr. Sager, don't. Have you seen women lift cars to get to their children? I did not like that at all personally. So that was really the only thing that rubbed me the wrong way. Otherwise, it was very fast paced. I understand the hype. I just need more from a thriller in terms of like leading me up to the grand reveal. And then lastly, I finally read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross and gave this 5 stars. I think something to talk about is that when I give a book 5 stars, I feel like there are different 5-star categories. Like it's a 5 stars and like I had a really good time with it, I'm so excited for the next book, like it really was a good book. But then there are like the 6-star books, and that's like the books that I don't ever stop thinking about, and they're just like on a whole different level that I don't even compare other books to because they are so good within their own capacity. And for me, like that's Fourth Wing. I've heard people say that you should read this book to get over your Fourth Wing hangover, and I just wouldn't even compare the 2. I would not even do that because it'll set you up, I think, to be let down when really this is a great book on its own and it doesn't need to be compared to anything. So I think you should know that going in. Alright, so this book follows Iris Winnow and Roman Kitt. They are kind of competitors at the Oath Gazette, competing for the journalist position. Journalist, columnist, something like that. They're competing for a position. Iris's brother Forrest has recently been called to the aid of one of the gods because the gods are warring again, and so he has gone to serve. Iris hasn't heard anything from him in 6 or 7 months since he's left, and so she keeps writing him these letters, and she slides them under her dresser, and they just disappear. And she thinks that they're going to Forrest, but who they're really going to is Roman. And Roman doesn't really do anything with these letters for a while. He knows that it's Iris because of the way that she talks about the Oath Gazette and everything, but he doesn't really respond. He's just learning more about her, and then one day he does respond and just says like basically that it's not Forrest. And so they start to build a friendship by writing letters back and forth, and the story kind of progresses from there. I don't really like workplace rivals. That's not my favorite trope, but if that is also true for you, that part of the story only lasts for like the first quarter of the book. After that, the plot completely changes and the setting completely changes, and I like that so much more. Nobody talks about that, and I think that that's a huge part of it, and I know that like might be a spoiler for what's to come. It just turned out so good. Also, the fantasy elements I feel like are very light in here. We have the 2 warring gods essentially, but then the only other real magic is the typewriters that Roman and Iris are using. I'm a sim for Roman. He was so sweet, and I loved their banter kind of back and forth. It was so cute. That was amazing. The ending was insane, and it left for such a good cliffhanger for the next book. I don't think it's as traumatic as a cliffhanger as some other books that I've read, because obviously there is a way out that we kind of see at the end, but I think it is still really good and sets it up nicely, and I just had such a good time with it. I loved the setting, the people. It was all just really well done. It felt like one of those books where it was just a movie in my head. I really like the writing style, so all of it was just kind of perfect for me. I would definitely recommend giving this a read if you haven't already. Also, it's on Kindle Unlimited, so you'll definitely want to check it out. And that is my August reading wrap up. Again, a lot of good reads, not as many as I would like. I'm hoping to have a lot more in September, but still a really good reading month nonetheless. Hopefully you all like this kind of reading wrap up, and now I finally get to go put them all away, thank goodness. Let me know if you enjoyed any of these books this month or what your favorite read was for August. Thanks for hanging around, and like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.